Amidst the chaos of NYU's campus life, one student stands out. Barron Trump, a name that commands attention, even when he's just walking to class. But today, Barron isn't just a student. He's about to make a choice that will change the course of one student's day, and maybe even his life. You won't believe what happens next. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss it. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this story is just getting started. The brisk winter air swirled through NYU's courtyard as students hurried to their classes, bundled in coats and scarves. A street performer strummed the familiar chords of Believer, the music drifting faintly against the old brick walls. Among the crowd, there was a sudden shift, like a wave of curiosity that spread through the sea of students, as Barron Trump, tall and composed, strode confidently onto campus, a bold red MAGA hat perched on his head. Conversations dimmed and heads turned, the buzz of activity slowing as he walked purposefully toward his lecture hall. Inside the classroom, Barron scanned the room, looking for a seat. His gaze landed on a lone desk near the back, occupied by a nervous student with bespectacled eyes, scribbling furiously in his notebook. With a calm and polite smile, Barron approached. "Is this seat taken?" The student's head shot up in alarm, his glasses slipping slightly down his nose. No, he stammered, his voice barely audible. Barron nodded, dropping his backpack to the floor as he settled into the chair. The student, now identified as Elliot, couldn't believe his eyes. Barron Trump, someone who seemed so far removed from his world, had chosen to sit next to him. His heart raced, not from fear, but from a strange, almost surreal excitement. The lecture proceeded as usual, but for Elliot, it was anything but ordinary. His mind kept drifting, occasionally glancing sideways at the person beside him, his brain still trying to process the unexpected turn of events. Barron, however, remained entirely focused on the lecture, jotting down notes with a sense of purpose. But Elliot could feel the weight of the moment. The unexpected act of kindness from someone so far removed from his world felt almost surreal. It wasn't just about Barron's actions. It was about Elliot realizing he wasn't invisible anymore. When the class ended, the students scattered in every direction. Elliot, feeling a strange mix of gratitude and disbelief, gathered his books, heading for the library, his usual destination. But as he walked down the hallway, a familiar sense of dread washed over him. Near the entrance, a group of rough-looking students loitered, blocking his path. Their eyes locked onto him like predators spotting vulnerable prey. "Hey, bookworm!" one sneered as Elliot attempted to slip past. The leader of the group, Jake, smirked and stepped forward. Before Elliot could react, another member of the group, Kyle, stuck out a foot, sending him sprawling onto the cold tile floor. His books scattered in every direction. A sharp pain shot through his knee, but it was the sting of humiliation that burned the hottest. Laughter filled the air, and the group known as the Hallway Hounds closed in on him. "Need a hand?" Kyle taunted, extending his arm mockingly. Reluctantly, Elliot reached out, but before he could steady himself, he was yanked upright and spun around like a rag doll. "Help me, please!" he cried out, his voice cracking with desperation. The students passing by didn't even glance his way, avoiding eye contact and quickening their pace. Unbeknownst to the bullies, Barron had been standing at the end of the hallway, watching. His usually calm demeanor shifted as he set his jaw, his eyes narrowing with purpose. Without hesitation, he marched toward the group. Don't miss what happens when Barron stands up for what's right. Hit subscribe and make sure you're ready for this explosive moment. "Hey!" Barron's voice boomed, cutting through the chaos. The bullies froze, their smirks faltering as they turned to face him. Jake, oblivious to the presence of someone more powerful than him, raised an eyebrow in disbelief. "And who the hell are you?" he scoffed, crossing his arms. One of Jake's lackeys, Ryan, tugged urgently at his sleeve, whispering, "Dude, that's Barron Trump." Jake's smirk deepened, the mockery thickening his voice. "Trump, huh?" he sneered, his eyes scanning Barron's confident stance. "Does your daddy know you're here playing hero?" The group chuckled, emboldened by their leader's arrogance. Barron didn't flinch. His gaze was locked on Jake, unwavering. His towering frame cast a long shadow over the bully as he took another step forward. "Pick up his books, now!" Barron commanded, his voice calm but with an underlying edge sharp enough to slice through the tension in the air. Jake's bravado faltered for a split second, but only a moment. He crossed his arms, masking his unease with a sneer. "Or what? You gonna call the Secret Service?" he taunted loudly, drawing the attention of more students passing by. The hallway, usually filled with idle chatter, grew eerily quiet. The faint hum of distant voices was swallowed by the weight of the moment. Barron tilted his head slightly, his eyes boring into Jake's with a piercing intensity. "You think this is a joke?" Barron's voice lowered, but it carried enough force to make the bully shift uncomfortably. "You walk away now, or every single person here will know exactly who you are and what you stand for." Jake opened his mouth to respond, but Barron raised his voice again, addressing the growing crowd. "Is this what we're okay with now? Watching cowards gang up on someone smaller just because they think no one will stop them?" A ripple of murmurs ran through the onlookers, and a few students stepped closer, their expressions hardening as they realized the severity of the situation. Jake's smirk faltered, his eyes darting nervously. Before he could muster a retort, a voice broke through the tension. "What's going on here?" A campus security officer appeared, hand resting on the radio clipped to his vest. The hallway hounds froze like deer caught in headlights. Barron didn't budge, his gaze still fixed on Jake. "These guys thought it'd be fun to humiliate someone who's done nothing to them," he said, his voice calm yet carrying enough weight to make even the officer pause. The security officer's eyes narrowed as he surveyed the group. "Is that right?" he asked, his tone sharp, the authority in his voice cutting through the remaining tension. Jake's face drained of color, his confidence unraveling as the officer closed in. "Fine," Jake muttered, voice barely audible. He turned to Kyle, his bravado slipping away. "Pick up the damn books." Kyle, visibly nervous now, scrambled to gather Elliot's scattered belongings, handing them back with trembling hands. "Sorry," he stammered, avoiding Elliot's gaze. Jake, eyes still glaring at Barron, gritted his teeth. "You'll regret this," he spat, though the words lacked the venom they once had. Barron stood tall, unflinching, his towering presence forcing Jake to instinctively step back. "No," Barron said firmly, his voice like thunder. "You will." The hallway hounds muttered half-hearted apologies before slinking away, their swagger replaced by the weight of their humiliation. The crowd parted to let them pass, the campus now buzzing with whispers. The security officer remained, watching until they disappeared from sight. Turning to the shaken Elliot, Barron crouched slightly, his eyes meeting Elliot's with a quiet understanding. "Are you okay?" Barron asked softly. Elliot, his eyes wide and glistening with unshed tears, nodded. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Barron smiled, offering a reassuring pat on Elliot's shoulder. "You don't have to thank me. No one deserves to be treated like that." Barron stood, removing his signature red MAGA hat and gently placing it on Elliot's head. "This," he said, meeting Elliot's gaze with a steady confidence, "is what we mean by Make America Great Again, standing up for each other." The crowd, which had grown larger by now, fell silent for a moment before a ripple of applause broke out. Elliot, overwhelmed by the kindness, smiled through his tears as Barron gave him a final pat on the shoulder and walked away, leaving behind a campus that now buzzed not just with gossip, but with a newfound sense of unity and purpose. Word of the incident spread quickly. What had started as a single act of courage and compassion turned into a beacon of hope for others. Conversations shifted from trivial gossip to deep discussions about standing up for what's right. Students who had once turned a blind eye to bullying began speaking out. Elliot found himself surrounded by new allies, no longer invisible in the crowded halls of his university. Barron Trump's actions that day proved that even the smallest acts of kindness and courage can ripple outward, changing not just a single life, but an entire community. As for Elliot, he walked away with his head held a little higher, knowing he wasn't alone anymore. Real change begins with small acts of kindness. If you believe in that, make sure to subscribe. Let's keep the conversation going. You won't want to miss what comes next.